Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, today we're talking about how you can protect your federal income, your retirement income as a federal employee throughout your entire retirement. Because it's one thing to be able to afford to retire today, 2025, or whenever you retire. It's another thing for that same income to be enough for you after tons of years of inflation 30 years later. That's a whole different thing. Let's say 2055. You want to make sure your money is protected so that with inflation, you can still maintain your standard of living and keep doing the things that you want to do to have a great retirement. So let's talk about it. Now, by the way, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Dallin Hawes. I'm a financial planner who serves feds just like you every day, and I love it. So let's talk about it. Now, there's good news and bad news. The good news is a lot of your federal retirement actually will handle inflation automatically, which we like that. For example, Social Security will automatically get cost of living adjustments every single year. So whatever inflation is, it'll go up by that. So for example, if inflation is 3%, then the following year your Social Security will go up by 3%. So Social Security, you really don't have to worry about it much, which is 2 thumbs up. But not all your income sources in retirement do that. For example, the first supplement, if you're familiar with that, I've got whole videos on what that is if you don't know what that is. But the first supplement gets 0 cost of living adjustments. Now, for most people, the supplement only lasts between 57 and 62. So it's really a short-term issue. It's not a lifelong issue, which is good. But during that zone, the first supplement stays fixed. It does not get cost of living adjustments, okay? Now, what about your pension? Your pension is kind of halfway in the middle. Your pension before 62 does not get cost of living adjustments unless you are special provisions. If you're a special provision employee, you get cost of living all the way from the beginning of retirement. Even if you retire, let's say at age 45, you'll get cost of living on your pension the entire time. If you are not special provision, if you're just a normal Fed, you get no cost of living until 62. So for example, if you retire at 57 as a Fed, for the first 5 years, your pension does not change. It does not go up. It stays fixed, and in 62 plus, you'll start getting cost of living after that, okay? And you don't get any cost of living for inflation that happened during the zone. You only get cost of living for inflation that happened after age 62, okay? Now, once the cost of living adjustment does happen every year, so your pension does start going up with inflation, you have to know that your pension doesn't get the full COLA. For example, Social Security will match inflation basically exactly. Your pension actually lags just a bit. They jokingly in the industry, they call it diet COLA, right? It's the COLA, but a little bit reduced. And this is roughly how it works. So if inflation is less than 2%, okay, less than 2%, then you will get whatever inflation is. It'll match inflation perfectly, okay? So if inflation is 1.5%, you'll get your pension will increase by 1.5%. If it's 2%, you'll get 2%. Now, if inflation is between 2 and 3, you will get 2%. Okay, so if inflation is 2.5%, you'll only get an increase of 2%. So a slight lag there. And if inflation is more than 3, you'll get whatever inflation is minus 1. So if inflation is 10%, your pension will go up by 9%. Okay, so basically, if inflation is low, your pension will match exactly whatever inflation is. If inflation is high, you're going to lag by about 1% or so throughout your retirement, okay? So it's good to have cost of livings, but there is a slight lag there. Now, last but not least, TSP. How can you make sure your TSP continues to beat inflation and can continue to provide income for you over time? Well, there's 2 sides of it. There is knowing how much you can withdraw to realistically increase that withdrawal with inflation over time, right? For example, if today you're taking out $3,000, well, in 15 years, $3,000 may not be enough because of inflation. Maybe you need $5,000 in 15 years, right? So you need to have a withdrawal strategy that can increase over time with inflation, right? That's number 1, which we'll talk about that. And number 2, you've got to be investing your money in a way that it can support that. If you're investing, let's say, only in the G fund, with your money almost never keeping up with inflation, well, sometimes keeping up with inflation, but not very well, and certainly not beating inflation on a regular basis, then your ability to actually build wealth over time and to keep up with inflation really, really goes down. So let's talk about it. So the first thing to know, for example, you have to follow a strategy that allows you to increase your your withdrawals over time with inflation. And one good strategy, now there's lots of good strategies out there, but this is one of them, okay? So one is called the 4% rule, okay? The 4% rule is a way to estimate how much your money can provide for you for the rest of your life, okay? And this is how it works. You take whatever balance you have in your investments, TSP, IRAs, 401ks, and you multiply it by 4%, right? So for example, if you have $1 million, multiply by 4%, that you get $40,000, okay? $40,000. Year one, you can take out 40 grand, no problem. That's what the 4% rule is all about. However, year two, you can take the 40,000 and increase it by whatever inflation was the previous year. Year three, you take year two number and you increase it by inflation, et cetera, et cetera. So the 4% rule is conservative enough to be able to increase that withdrawal with inflation over time. So as long as you follow a rule like this and start conservative enough, like the 4% rule, then you can increase your withdrawals over time with inflation. Now, this only works, the 4% rule only works if you're invested appropriately. If you're too conservative, it won't work. It won't work. And if you're too aggressive, it'll have some problems as well. So I've got whole videos on how you probably should be investing in retirement to support something like the 4% rule. So you can definitely go check out my how to invest videos in the TSP in retirement, okay? So these are the core things to keep in mind. Social Security keeps with inflation exactly. Your pension kind of does that. Your first supplement has no cost of living. And if you handle your TSP correctly, it can keep up with inflation as well. And honestly, this is the key. Between all of this, the key summary for me is you got to have some margin in your plan. What do I mean by that? For example, let's say for you to have a comfortable retirement, you need $5,000 of income. If your plan can only support $5,000 and not a cent more between, let's say, your pension, Social Security, and TSP, the max it can do is $5,000. That might be stressful over time. Over time, if your pension, if inflation is high and your pension lags a little bit or whatever happens, if your budget and your income in retirement is super, super tight, that'll be stressful. Because maybe your city or your expenses go up faster than average inflation over time. Who knows, right? You want to have some buffer. So that hopefully to have a comfortable retirement, you need $5,000, but hopefully you've got $6,000 of income, or you've got some buffer in there. Some buffer is really, really helpful to make sure that you can have the retirement that you want for the rest of your life. Not just now, but for the rest of your life. So I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video.